Hello and welcome to the Share It with Ishani podcast. And I'm Ishani Gupta, radio anchor and a public speaking coach. Here's a reminder, don't forget to subscribe to my channel because I bring in one podcast episode every single Saturday to educate, empower, and inspire you. So in today's episode, I have a very special guest because we are going to talk about stage fright and how to deal with that. So today we have on our show, all the way from US, Ely Delaney. Hello, Ely. How are you doing?
I'm doing awesome. How are you today?
I'm doing great as well. And let me tell my viewers that Ely is a automated systems strategist, and he is the creator of Follow Up Rockstar System. He works with coaches, authors, speakers, as well as consultants, and he's also the best-selling author. So we'll get to know a lot more about him in this episode and also tips on stage fright and how to overcome it. Okay, so let us get going with this episode. So Ely, you're also known as the People's Whisperer. Can you elaborate a little more on that?
So that was a radio show that I was actually part of. I was a guest on, and I was myself and a bunch of other people had been regular guests for this show for a while, and they ended up having an award show at one point, and it was hilarious because the host of the show, I've known her for years. I mean, we've been friends for probably close to a decade now. And it was hilarious because we knew each other for 8 years before we'd ever actually been in the same room together. Because I've lived in this virtual world that we're kind of in right now. I've done that stuff for so long. And she always talked about the fact that I know everybody and I talk to everybody. And I'm known for the guy that can walk into a room of complete strangers and walk out with half of them being friends. And so they ended up doing these awards, and it was kind of fun because my award, and I didn't even know anything about this, was that I was the people whisperer. And so it kind of stuck, and it's been around, and I call that a claim to fame because I have fun with it. It's like I love, just like it says above my head, I love meeting cool people. I love meeting cool people, having great conversations, getting to know them, and seeing what makes them tick and what gets them excited. What can we do to help each other out? Because as entrepreneurs, that's the next level of everything. And so that's where the People Whisperer came to be.
Wow, that's wonderful. So can you tell me a little more about how you gel with people? Because that is something we really need in today's time. We need to talk to more people, connect with them, and help each other, just like you mentioned. So can you tell us a little more about how we can actually do that? A few tips on that.
Okay. So first and foremost, remember people are people. Even if you're an introvert, and this is the funny thing, is a lot of people don't realize I am actually a pretty hardcore introvert. Introverts are, and the introvert extrovert thing has a lot of misconceptions out there, because a lot of times people use being an introvert as an excuse to not socialize, to not talk to people. And most of that is actually based out of fear. It's out of the fact that they're not comfortable talking to a stranger. And early on in my business, my first business was a web and graphic design agency. That was over 25 years ago. And I knew nothing about business and I knew nothing about getting clients. But of all people, my mom said, well, have you tried going to a chamber of commerce? And so I went to a local business chamber of commerce and was like, okay, what do I do? And the guy that I met said, here's the reality is you're going to get out of it what you put into it. You need to go to every event you can, and you need to just talk to people. And I took that to heart. And that's how I grew that first business. I didn't do any kind of advertising. It was purely networking, connecting. And in only a few years, I'd gone from literally a startup to building over 200 websites by myself before I even grew to the point of a team. We ended up getting to the point where we had 5 people. We're closing 3 to 5 contracts a week. And it was all through networking. It was just connecting with people. But the reality is you just go in and have a conversation with them. Ask about people, ask the questions, how did you get into this? What is it that gets you started? And there's a lot of things that you can do to make it easier to make that connection by talking to one person just like you know them already. Talk to them like a friend. Don't talk to them looking for the sale, because the sale is going to happen if it's there. If somebody's interested in what you have, and they're ready, they'll ask the questions. In the meantime, let them know what you do, and then have a cool conversation. And it just makes life so much easier. It takes all the pressure off.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing this, because hello, I'm also an introvert. I have been throughout my life.
Yeah.
But then I got into radio anchoring thing in India's radio station, government radio station, and then that completely changed my life. So
Nice.
since then, I am also into public speaking and coaching people and all those stuff. So
yeah. Well, and that brings up a really good point. A lot of people don't realize what you and I do is a learned skill as introverts. As introverts, the people that, if you give me the choice, chances are I'm probably going to hang out at the house with my dogs. But we have learned how to overcome the fear in order to utilize our ability just to communicate properly. It's all it is. It's just talking. It's just having a dialogue with somebody. And by doing that, that has helped us meet cool people, grow our businesses, help more people, because you can't help somebody if you're hiding in your bedroom. Okay.
Yeah.
You've got to get out there. You've got to share your story, your message, your skills, your knowledge, your brilliance. You have to share that with other people, or else you're not making a difference. And so everything that we do as introverts, we learned the skills to take it out there and become more extroverted. I like to say I'm an introvert with extrovert tendencies.
Oh,
and
wow.
That's a good way to kind of describe it, because people that see me, they're like, you talk to everybody. You'll talk to complete strangers on the street. And I'm like, yeah, but that doesn't mean I'm not an introvert. An introvert, the big difference is that an introvert, it does take a lot of energy out of them for that interaction. So like when I speak in front of a live audience, I'm exhausted afterwards. I mean, it's like at that point, give me some food and put me to bed. I'm done. But that doesn't mean that I can't have the energy and I can't have that conversation and I can't talk to strangers. It's like, I get that, but I do need to have my refresh time as well. And where extroverts are just the opposite. They want to be the center of attention because they get all that energy from other people. And that's really what it boils down to. The rest of it is just learn skills. So if you're sitting there going, I could never do this, or I don't really want to get out in the public. I'm afraid of getting out there and making a mistake, any of that kind of stuff. It's all a learned skill. It's all stuff that you can do. It's that you can get over that.
Yeah, absolutely. So talking about that, you have also worked with a lot of speakers and coaches. And obviously speakers, coaches, the main or the primary activity that they might be doing is connecting with people, talking to a lot of people, presenting and all the stuff. So have you encountered some speakers and coaches who are introverted or who have stage fright, basically?
Oh, definitely. First and foremost, a lot of the best speakers are introverts, actually. And it's really funny because a lot of the extroverted ones, and this is kind of a blanket statement, so this doesn't apply to everybody, but a lot of extroverted speakers go overboard all the time, where the introverted ones, they actually tend to be a little bit, they're great on the education and great on sharing their message, but they don't like push it as much. And they tend to have a deeper connection with the audience a lot of times. Again, it's not always, but it does happen with that. Now, talking about stage fright, I am probably one of the best examples of stage fright ever, because when I first started, I told you I joined a Chamber of Commerce, and I joined the Chamber of Commerce, and they said, well, we have a lunch group. You should go check out this lunch group. And I go, the first week there's like 12 people there or something like that. And I'm terrified because I don't know anybody, and being an introvert. And at the time I was still fairly new to all this stuff. And they said, you know what, we don't have a web designer in here, so you should speak next week and share what you can do. And I'm just like, do what? I was like, uh-oh. And I literally, and it was actually 2 weeks. It wasn't a week. It was 2 weeks, because I remembered that I spent 2 weeks practicing this presentation. It was like a 20-minute presentation. It was not very long at all. I was terrified. I was the guy who failed speech class. Okay. And that was like, I mean, I was almost a straight A student except for that one. Right. And so I spent all this time I had an 8-page handout, and I printed out and had copies for everybody. There's 12 people in the room. And I get up there and I'm like this, shaking, reading word for word off of my handout.
Oh.
And I mean, that's stage fright, right? Now, here's the funny thing about this is if you back up a few years, I grew up in the music world. I grew up classically trained in voice as a singer, but I had stage fright, and I got out of it completely because of that. I actually moved to working behind the scenes. I was a stagehand. I did lighting and stuff like that because I was afraid to be on stage. Lo and behold, down the road, they're like, hey, why don't you get in front of a group of people and talk? And I'm like, I thought I got rid of that stuff, but I didn't. And I got out there and I did it. And one of the very first things that I learned was there's a gentleman in the room that he and I'd had a chance to meet and had lunch before I got up and spoke. And it was like a couple of days before or something like that. He knew that I knew my stuff. And so as he saw me shaking like this, he starts asking me questions. And what he was doing is he was reading the handout that I gave him and reading ahead a little bit and asking me questions. Because then instead of reading the handout, I put the handout down and I answered his questions. Now he forced me to have a conversation with him instead of worrying about a pre-done presentation. And so I just answered the questions. Well, I knew the stuff. I wrote the thing, right?
Yeah.
And so I just answered the questions. I knew my content. I was just terrified to share it because I didn't know how at the time. And he taught me a very valuable lesson at that point. Don't worry about the content. You know your content. Bullet points are all you need. You know, just to keep you on track. To be perfectly honest, when I use slides, if I ever use slides when I'm speaking, 99% of that is just so I stay on track. Because you get me started, I can talk about all kinds of stuff and we'll be there all day long. Yeah. But what I do is, and this is what I learned from this, was I just have bullet points. And I'm like, okay, let's have a conversation. So we start in that aspect of, you know, wouldn't it be cool if, you know, what a cool basic question. And no matter how many people you're speaking to, whether it's one person on a podcast like this, or if you got, you know, 1,000 people in the room, I mean, I can speak in front of 300 people and not even twitch. But I'm focusing on one person in the audience at a time. I'm thinking about that one person. Even on Zoom, a lot of times I'll speak at events that I'll see other people that I know, and I've had conversations with them. And so I start catering the overall theme of the message to that one person. And I think about that conversation with the one person. And then I might move to another person. And when you do that, you forget about everybody else. Yes. And all of a sudden, it's not, I'm speaking in front of 300 people. You're speaking in front of one person and 299 of their friends. It's really a different attitude. It's just all in your head. Actually, is that helpful?
Obviously, it is definitely helpful. Actually, I can resonate with you or whatever you have just spoken right now. In fact, I applied the same technique without even knowing. When I was on my first day at job as a radio anchor, I was extremely terrified. I had no clue before, but I was there on my first show, and I was terrified of the fact that I had to go live on the air. And then I had to calm my nerves and control all of that. So this is the technique that I actually use. Practically, it worked because we introverts are basically great conversationalists. So I thought, instead of imagining that there are so many thousands of people who are going to listen to me, let me just imagine that I'm talking to my best friend. If I can do that, then this is going to work. And it actually worked.
Oh, yeah. Well, and here's the fun thing about this is this works across the board. This works in every aspect of life. So I am an email copywriter. I love using email and sharing messages with people via email. One of the things that makes my stuff so effective is the conversational aspect of it. And when I sit down and write an email, I imagine I open up Gmail and I'm writing an email to you, Ishani. You know, I'm not thinking about, hey guys. No, it's hey there, how's it going?
Yeah.
One person. You
One
keep
person.
one person in mind. And when you can do that in whether you're speaking on stage, whether you're recording a video, maybe you're looking at the little camera, which by the way, talking in front of an audience and looking at the camera are two different things. The funny thing about it is I have a harder time just recording a video by myself, staring at the little dot on the camera, than I do speaking in front of 300 people live. Okay, so everybody has their thing, right? Find out what works for you. Also figure out your style with all of it. Whether you're more of a slide type person, whether you're an interactive person. It's like I always tell everybody, just like and you and I have had this conversation, I said, just ask questions. We're just going to have a cool conversation. Yeah. I don't have something specifically planned. I have a couple of rough ideas in my head because I know my content, right? If you're an expert at what you do, you know your content. So you go from that point and take your content and mold it into the conversation, that the conversation is always first.
Yeah.
Because the conversation is what gets people to pay attention. They start listening a lot more. And most importantly, if you're in sales, they're going to trust you and want to do business with you because you're a cool person. They want that you feel like you care and you feel like somebody that they can relate to. That's what people want. I mean, there's a million people out there that sell exactly the same thing that any of us do.
Yeah.
They're not buying the product. They know they need the product. They're buying you. Mm-hmm. And when they can buy you, it's because they trust you. Know, like, and trust, the KLT factor. We've all heard that before. But they have to get to know you first before they can start liking you. And once they like you, they choose whether they trust you. I mean, I think what doctors and lawyers are probably the only ones that you can skip the like factor, whether you don't trust them or not. The rest of us have to work for it. But if you can get people just to like you, have a cool conversation with them, be approachable, be a real human being, having a real conversation with real people, everything else gets easier. Whether it be on stage, whether it be on podcasts, whether you're even recording a video just by yourself to go into a course that you're creating, whether you're writing an email or a blog post, it's all the same.
That is absolutely correct. In fact, as you have talked about the email thing, I would like to share some examples of certain businesses, certain coaches, because even I receive emails from them. I'm there in some of these people's email lists and all. So there are certain people who actually focus on being on that conversation factor, looking forward to connect with the individual they are emailing. But there are certain people who are not really doing that job as such. After reading their emails, you don't connect with them that way. You feel like, okay, it is just a business. So this is a very important factor that you have mentioned, which is very important when trying to connect with people.
Yeah. Well, and I want to touch on something related to what you just said too. And it's really interesting because this is kind of a topic that I'm hearing along with noticing myself. And I've noticed it for a while, is that a lot of people in today's world, they talk about the storytelling aspect. And in all the communication, you have to tell a story, which is good. The problem is that people take that as human beings, we take everything to extremes. And we end up taking the storytelling. The story is more important than the communication. And storytelling is fine, but the story it's not about the story. The story is a tool in the communication, in the dialogue. Mm-hmm. And so don't stress about, I have to have a story. Just talk. If a story fits, cool, share the story. But don't stress about the story, because nobody really cares about the story. They just want to have a cool conversation. That's all it is.
Yeah, absolutely. That is really cool. I mean, sometimes we tend to focus on creating stories just to fit in certain stories, which is absolutely wrong way to approach this topic. But if it comes naturally, then it does. Otherwise, just leave it out. It should come
Exactly.
naturally. Only then,
Exactly.
yeah, only then we will be able to connect with the people in true sense.
Most definitely. And that's the kicker with it, is you just want to make it natural. You want to have a real conversation. And
Yeah.
and like I said, that goes across whether you're writing emails, writing copy for a sales page, talking on a podcast, recording a video for your course, getting on stage in front of 1,000 people. It's all the same thing. It's just having a good conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. So you have this follow-up rockstar system. So what is it about?
So the follow-up rockstar system is based around many, many years. So I told you earlier, I've been in business for over 25 years. Now, email marketing as it is and social media didn't exist and everything back then. But what I have figured out is the type of communication I have, and this is the stuff we're talking about, I've used this my entire career. Well, about 15 years ago, we got into using email marketing and follow-up processes and stuff like that. And I started building this stuff up. This is when I actually became a speaker, an actual okay, I think I want to do this more other than speaking for 12 people at a local chamber of commerce lunch eating rubber chicken, right? I wanted to actually get out there. I saw a speaker speak. He became my first mentor in the internet marketing space. And he was in a room with 400 people and he taught some amazing stuff that he kept me entertained. I laughed. I learned some really good stuff. He shared his stories. But at the end of the day, I was like, I want to work with him. And I became a student of his. And so did a lot of other people. I mean, he was selling a $2,000 course and he sold probably half the room that day.
Wow, that's
$2,000 and there's about 200 people signed up.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it was a good day, and that was not uncommon for him. He's very, very good at what he does. But I saw, before even that happened, I saw him on stage. I'm like, I like that. I want to do that. And that was the spark for me to become a quote unquote speaker. And so from that standpoint, I started becoming a speaker. I started speaking. And what I found was I might get in front of 100 people. And I generally do the speak to sell. So I'm speaking, I teach a lot of stuff, but at the end, I sell one of my programs. And when I started, I'm doing this and I get 10 people would sign up for whatever program I have to sell, which isn't a bad number. Getting 10% of the room to say, yes, here's my credit card. That's a good thing. That's a good day. But my brain immediately went into, well, what about the other 90 people? What happened to them? Why didn't they buy? Mm-hmm. And so I started devising stuff to follow up with them, to stay in touch with them. It's like, okay, why didn't you buy? Don't forget, I'm still here. How can I help you? What's going on? Because I know my stuff's going to help you. So what did I do wrong to make you not make that decision? And I would start doing this stuff. And it really was conversational. Mm-hmm. And what ended up happening is it worked so well. Other speakers saw what I was doing. And they're like, okay, Ely, I see what you're doing here. Who's your guy? Who set this stuff for you? I'm like, we did it. And he's like, okay. They're like, okay, here's my credit card. How much? And we pushed it off for quite a while. And then we ended up deciding to finally give in. And so we started helping clients with this and building campaigns and stuff like that, follow-up systems. And over the years, I did a lot of stuff for a lot of different people, some big names you may have even heard of. But what ended up happening was I realized that they all fell into about 6 different campaigns, and they're just all modifications of those. But the psychology and the language and the formatting and the timing and all that kind of stuff was very systematic. I had my own methodology of doing it, and it worked really well. And so eventually, a few years ago, I figured out how I could package that up in order to teach other people. And we run a hybrid program. That's the follow-up rockstar system, where as opposed to a course, you can have a course and everybody has courses to sell. But reality is 9 times out of 10, somebody buys the course and they don't do anything with it. Okay. We've all done that. I've done that. Okay. As a matter of fact, I just bought something yesterday. I think I put it on the schedule to watch some of their videos next month. Because I'm busy. We just don't have time. The other side is people hire an agency, which is what we did for quite a while. But hiring an agency can get expensive really quick. And a lot of times the entrepreneur, the business owner, doesn't know what the agency's really doing. And so I decided I wanted to be the middle ground. I wanted to be the hybrid of the two. So we have videos, we have training, we have the templates and all that kind of stuff to get you started. But then we're working with you to fine tune all that stuff to build your campaigns out. And so these campaigns are everything from you meet somebody networking in a face-to-face world. How do you follow up with those people? To if you want to run events, one of the best things in the world. I have both online and offline. My webinar platform, I had a guy who used my system. We helped him set it up, and his very first webinar, first time he'd ever tried to get business from a webinar, 94 people registered, 91 showed up.
Wow.
That's unheard of. Yeah, that's unheard of. Okay. He ended up getting 12 people to sign up for a call with him, knowing that he sells a $16,000 to $20,000 sales training. They knew the price before they even had the conversation with them, and they signed up. These are serious people. Mm-hmm. The boy made a lot of money that day off of the right words, the right communication. And so that's the kind of stuff that we do. That's just one example of some of the stuff we have in the system. And the system is literally the culmination of everything that I've done for the last 15 years on building communication using the digital platforms and the automation, because the automation is a big piece, because once we meet more people, we don't have time to follow up manually all the time. It's not going to happen. Fires happen. We're humans. We're going to make mistakes. We're going to drop the ball. So we have the technology. We all have access to it. If you've got an email system or a CRM system, you got the software. What you need is the system, the methodology to use that tool. And so that's what the Follow Up Rockstar system has become. My claim to fame is I have a follow-up system that runs for over 3 years. The running joke with that is I could literally go outside and get hit by a bus today, and I'm still going to sell you stuff for 3 more years. And that's kind of a cool place to be. Now, obviously, I look both ways before crossing a street anytime I go outside. But knowing that that's in place, knowing that even if I get busy, I get sick, so there's a family emergency, or just want to take a week off, something still happens in my business without me having to worry about it, without me having to touch it. It's a pretty cool place to be. It gives you control of your business back. And so that's what the Follow Up Rockstar system is all about.
Okay, so that's incredible, the things that you are doing. Actually, after this podcast, I'm going to talk to you a little more about this in detail.
All right, let's do that.
Yeah.
Love to.
This is really amazing. Yeah. So communication part is the paramount thing. We often neglect this part. Sometimes we don't even realize that communication is the thing holding everything together. You might have the softwares, you might have the system in place, but if you don't know how to approach people, how to communicate them, then everything else fails. It really doesn't matter what system you have in place.
Communication is the key. And I always like to say, and this is something to write down, the people that you meet will get you anywhere you want to go. And that's just a fact. Mm-hmm. The people that you meet will get you anywhere you want to go. You just got to ask the right questions, be around the right people. You got to meet the right people, and also see how you can help them out. Mm-hmm. Because one of the easiest ways to go fast is to find somebody else who you can help them that knows somebody who can help you. And it'll just, your entire world will skyrocket like you wouldn't believe, just with the connections, the people you have.
Wow. That's awesome.
Thanks.
And Ely, you have written down 2 books which are Amazon best-selling books. So can you talk a little more about that as well?
Yeah. So the first book I wrote with my partner was Marketing Tidbits, 50 Quick and Easy Ways to Market Yourself. That was the first one. The second one is Networking Tidbits, and that one was on myself because I am a networker. That's what I do for, everything is based around that. It's again about the relationships and meeting cool people. And from that aspect, both books are designed to be quick and easy tips. So it's not a hard read. It's something you can read a little bit here or there, but they're designed specifically to pick it up, thumb through it, doesn't matter where, read a chapter and go implement the chapter. It's each chapter is short and they're designed to give you, okay, I need to, market myself more effectively. So let me go pick up the book, go do something out of the book. And then tomorrow we'll do something else. Very easy to read, very easy to skim through it. You're going to get a ton of value, and it's all easy stuff. I don't like hard stuff. I don't want to do hard stuff. And so both the networking one and the marketing one are both designed in that same vein of make it super easy. I am in the process of getting ready to start my next one. It's been on the back burner for way too long, so it needs to come on the forefront pretty soon. And it's going to be a lot more into automation and that kind of stuff.
Oh, okay. That's incredible. I would really love to read your books.
Cool. Awesome.
So thanks a lot, Eli. It was an amazing session with you today. So any final message for my viewers?
The most important thing, well, I'll give you two. First one is when we talk about automation, we talk about technology, don't get hung up on it. It's not about the technology. It's about the psychology. That's another thing to write it down. I want you to think about that. I don't care what tool you have. One of the biggest questions I get, especially from coaches that are launching their coaching program or they're creating courses and stuff like that. It's like, should I be on this platform or should I buy that software, this, that, the other? None of that matters. Buy what does the basic stuff to get you what you need to do. But what matters is implementing a system to utilize that software.
Yeah.
It's all about psychology. It's all about how you make people feel. What is the experience they have when they think of you? What words come to mind? Doesn't matter how fancy the software is. You don't need expensive stuff. As long as it looks sharp and it puts a good image of you helping them, you're fine. Don't stress about the technology. The next one. This is the most important thing you can do. It's above my head here. Meet cool people. Make a point to connect with one new person every single day. Reach out to somebody that you've wanted to connect to, that maybe somebody you might think is a bit out of range. Connect with them on Facebook, connect with them on LinkedIn, and just say, hey, I admire what you are doing. I just wanted to let you know that. And if you have something specific, I've got authors that I found that way. Bob Burg. So if you haven't read this book, this is an amazing book. It's called The Go-Giver. Bob Burg. Okay. It's been around forever. This is like a classic at this point. And Bob, it's funny because this book was recommended to me by a friend of mine. And I read the book. I really liked the book. And somehow online, I ended up connecting with Bob and ended up having him on my podcast at one point, purely because I reached out to him and said, hey, Bob, I just wanted to tell you how powerful your book has been and how it's helped me out. And it's framed a lot of how I run my own business and how I live my life. I have a podcast. I was wondering if you would be interested in possibly being a guest for me. No hesitation. He was like, of course. Since then, he and I have talked. We're not close friends. We've never actually even been in the same room, but we talk online back and forth every once in a while. He knows who I am. And it all started from just a simple message. I have a lot of very famous authors that I know from that. So many of them, their phone numbers in my phone. And it all started with just having a basic conversation, showing how much I appreciate them and showing them respect. That's all it takes.
Wow, that was an incredible story that you just shared. Real life example how the right kind of communication, just reaching out, can actually just do the magic.
Definitely. Awesome.
Thanks a lot, Eli. It was really a great pleasure having you on my show today. You shared such a great insight into communication and dealing with stage fright and networking with people, reaching out to them. It was a full-packed, knowledge-packed episode, and I'm so grateful to you for being on my show.
Well, thank you so much. It's my pleasure. I had a good time. And for anybody watching this, if you want to connect with me, please do. I'm easy to find. One of the easiest things to do, go to connectwithely.com. It's ELY, but go to connectwithely.com. From there, you can find out, you can connect to my website, you can connect to my social media, all that different stuff right there. You can even book a call to talk to me. I mean, I want to be fully approachable. I like that. I want to meet with you. I want to get to know you and see how I can help you out. If you do connect with me in social media, though, do me a big favor. When you send that friend request, send a message saying that you heard me on this show. That makes a difference. Mm-hmm. The people who send me a message and said, hey, I heard you on Ashanti's show, and this is something that I got out of it. Thank you so much. Those are the people that always go to the top of the list. Those are the ones I remember. And so that's a good way to reach out to anybody. But if you're going to reach out to me, definitely, please do that. And feel welcome to. I love connecting to people. I'd love to get to know you. So Shanti, thank you so much for letting me hang out today and share. I have so much fun with this stuff.
Same here. And to my viewers, once again, if you want to get in touch with Ely, all the details are there in the description box below. You can definitely go check out the links and each and every way you can connect with him. So thanks a lot, Ely, once again. So signing off from Share It with Ishani Podcast, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.